You know, every great legend has a beginning, right? That one moment where fate just gets unleashed, kicking off a story that people will tell for centuries. Well, for one of China's biggest epics, that story doesn't start on a battlefield. Nope. It starts with a single act of, well, let's call it cosmic folly. Check this out. Amidst the chaos of the 5 dynasties, the clouds part to reveal the sky again. That is the very first line of Water Margin, which is, one of the absolute titans of Chinese literature. It's supposed to set the stage for this new peaceful era, the Song dynasty. But, as you can probably guess, a new storm is brewing. And this one isn't about war. It's about people. So, how does this whole epic conflict get started? Well, it's not with some huge clash of armies. It all starts with one single fateful act. Picture this. A terrible plague is tearing through the country during the reign of Emperor Renzong. The emperor is desperate, so he sends this top official on a mission. Go find a celestial master, get him to do a ritual, and end this plague. Simple enough, right? Yeah, well, this mission takes let's just say, an unexpected turn. Okay, so this official, his name is Marshal Hong, he gets to this sacred mountain, and he finds this place, the Hall of Suppressed Demons. I mean, the name alone should be a red flag, right? The local priests basically beg him, look, this hall has been sealed for generations. Whatever is in there, you do not want to let it out. But Marshal Hong, he's a big shot official. He's not buying any of it. So he just waves off their warnings, calls it a bunch of nonsense, and orders his men to break the locks and tear down the seals. Inside, he finds this huge stone tablet. And on the back, there's a prophecy carved into it. It says, to be opened when Hong arrives. And what's his name again? Marshal Hong. So of course he thinks, aha, this is my destiny. The priests are freaking out, pleading with him to stop, but he's not listening. He orders his men to lift the tablet, and underneath is just this deep, dark pit. And then, with this sound like thunder, this black mist just erupts out of the abyss. It shoots straight up into the sky, and then, bam! It shatters into 108 streaks of golden light that scatter to the winds. Now you hear Hall of Suppressed Demons, and you're thinking, he just unleashed, literal demons. But it's not quite like that. What he's actually unleashed are 108 celestial spirits. You've got 36 super powerful heavenly spirits and 72 really formidable earthly fiends. And these spirits, these stars, are now destined to be reborn on Earth as the 108 heroes of our story. The stage is officially set. But wait a second. How do heroic spirits become outlaws? Well, for that to happen, the world they're born into has to be completely messed up, totally unjust. It needs a catalyst for all that corruption. And in this story, that catalyst is one man. So let me introduce you to Gao Q. This guy starts out as a total street punk. The book calls him a floating, broken-down son, which is a great way of saying he was good for nothing except gambling and, get this, kickball. So after he gets kicked out of town for being a nuisance, a series of just bizarrely lucky events puts him in front of a prince because he happens to kick a stray ball back to him. The prince is so blown away by his kickball skills that he makes Gao Q his buddy. And when that prince becomes the emperor, Gao Q's career just explodes. He becomes Grand Marshal, the top military commander in the entire country. Not because he's a great leader or a strategist, but because he was good at kickball and sucking up to the right guy. And this right here, this is where the central theme of the whole book clicks into place. Guanbi mean fan. It basically means the officials force the people to rebel. See, when guys like Gao Chu are running the show, the system itself becomes the bad guy. And good, honorable people, they find themselves backed into a corner with nowhere to go, pushed into becoming outlaws by a government that has completely forgotten what justice even is. And you don't have to wait long to see what happens next. The consequences of all this corruption pop up almost immediately, and they come in the form of a man whose sense of justice is just way too big for this broken world. So our first hero is this guy named Zhishen. He's a military officer, and his worldview is pretty simple. He protects the weak, and he punishes the wicked. End of story. He sees a problem, he solves it. Usually with his fists. So when he hears a young woman crying in a tavern, he doesn't think twice. He's got to know what's wrong. It turns out she's being terrorized by this local bully, a butcher they call the Lord of the West. Zhishen is, of course, enraged. He finds the butcher, and with just 3 devastating punches, he accidentally kills the guy.
And just like that, this man of justice is now a wanted man. He has to run. His only option is to hide out in a monastery, so he shaves his head and becomes a monk. They call him the flowery monk because of all the tattoos he has.
But you can't just put monk robes on a guy like this and expect him to change. I mean, there's this classic chapter called The Flowery Monk Uproots a Willow Tree, and that pretty much tells you everything you need to know. He gets annoyed by some crows in a tree, so in front of everybody, he just literally rips a giant willow tree right out of the ground with his bare hands. This guy is a force of nature. He's way too wild, way too righteous for this world.
Okay, so not every hero is a walking earthquake like Zhishen. Some of them are just good, loyal guys who try to do the right thing, play by the rules, only to find out the whole game is rigged. And that brings us to the story of Chong.
This is Chong, nicknamed Pantherhead. And he is the absolute model soldier. We're talking an elite arms instructor for the 800,000 Imperial Guards. He's loyal, he's honorable, he loves his wife. His life is totally on the straight and narrow. Until the day Gaoqiu's disgusting adopted son sees his wife and decides, I want her. And Gao Chu, wanting to keep his spoiled son happy, puts a whole systematic plot into motion to just destroy Chong's life. It starts small with harassment in public, but it escalates fast. And then comes the real gut punch. Chong's own best friend, a guy named Chong, betrays him. He tricks him, lures him away from his wife, just so Gaoqiu's son can have another go at her. When even that doesn't work, the plot turns deadly.
So they trick Chong into going to a place called the White Tiger Hall. The excuse? They tell him Gaoqiu heard he got a new, precious sword and wants to see it, compare it to his. And Chong, being a total weapons expert and a loyal soldier, thinks, great, and heads right over.
Here's the thing about the White Tiger Hall, though. It's basically the Pentagon of its day, the absolute nerve center of military command. You do not go in there without authorization. And you definitely don't go in there carrying a weapon. That's treason, a capital crime. The second Chong walks through the door, the trap snaps shut. Gaoqiu shows up, accuses him of trying to assassinate him, and has him arrested. In an instant, his entire life is just gone. So, there you have it. Two totally different good guys, both forced to become outlaws. One because his sense of justice was just too explosive for society, and the other because he was systematically crushed by cold, calculated corruption. These personal stories, these tragedies, they're the seeds of something much, much bigger.
Remember, Zhishen and Chong are just two of those 108 spirits that were unleashed. There are 106 more to go, and every single one of them is going to have their own story, their own breaking point that pushes them into rebellion, all because they live in a world where the law protects the bad guys and punishes the good ones.
What we're seeing here are two completely opposite ways of thinking. On one hand, you have the systems logic, Gaoqiu's logic, which is simple. Play along with the corruption or we will destroy you. But then you have the Outlaws logic. They create their own code centered around this idea of E-key. Think of it as this profound sense of honor, loyalty, and righteous brotherhood. And for them, that code becomes more important than any official law.
And all of this really boils down to the central question of the entire novel, the one that hangs over every single hero's story. When the government that's supposed to protect you is actively trying to destroy you, what is a good person supposed to do? That single, powerful question is what fuels this entire incredible legend.